The clinking of glasses and the hum of conversation filled the air at Thompson Industries' annual office party. The brightly lit ballroom shimmered with elegance, but amidst the laughter and clamor, one moment changed everything. "Wait, what?" Dave blurted out, his voice barely rising above the noise. He stood frozen, his eyes wide in disbelief as Sarah, the woman he had invited to the party, was introduced to the crowd. The CEO of the company, Mr. Thompson, had just walked in, and in that instant, he recognized her. "Sarah, is that really you?" A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, and the once jubilant atmosphere became thick with tension. The irony of the moment hung heavy in the air, and Dave felt the weight of 1,000 gazes on him. What had started as an act of kindness had taken a turn he could never have anticipated. Setting the scene, Dave had always been the kind of guy who wore his heart on his sleeve. As a middle-tier manager at Thompson Industries, he prided himself on being approachable and empathetic, a voice of reason in a sea of corporate ambition. His colleagues often joked that he should be the one running the company, not just crunching numbers behind a desk. But Dave knew his place and was content to support those around him. It was a chilly Friday afternoon when he first encountered Sarah. He had stepped out of the office for a quick break, seeking fresh air to clear his mind from the day's meetings and spreadsheets. Wandering down the bustling streets, he noticed her sitting against a brick wall, wrapped in a tattered blanket, her eyes weary yet kind. She had a presence that immediately drew him in, a mix of strength and vulnerability that was hard to ignore. "Hey there," Dave said gently, kneeling down to meet her gaze. "Do you need anything?" Sarah looked up, momentarily startled. "Just a warm meal, if you have any spare change," she replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Instead of offering money, Dave felt a surge of compassion that drove him to take a different route. "How about I take you to lunch? There's a diner just around the corner that serves the best burgers in town." Surprise flickered across her face, followed by a hesitant smile. "You'd do that for me?" "Of course. Everyone deserves a meal and a friendly conversation." They spent the next hour sharing stories over steaming plates of food. Sarah spoke of her past, a career in fashion, the vibrant life she had once led, and the series of unfortunate events that had led her to the streets. Dave listened intently, feeling a connection that transcended their stark differences. In turn, he shared his own dreams and aspirations, how he was striving to make a difference in the corporate world while finding joy in the simple things. By the time they finished, Sarah's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "I can't thank you enough for this," she said, her smile genuine. "I can't remember the last time someone treated me like a human being." As they parted ways, an idea blossomed in Dave's mind. The company's annual office party was just around the corner. A chance to mingle, connect, and celebrate. "Would you like to come to the office party with me? I'd love for you to meet some of my colleagues." The invitation caught Sarah off guard. "You want me to come to a fancy party with you?" "Absolutely. It'll be fun, I promise. Just wear something nice." He chuckled. "I can help with that if you need it. Let me know if you need anything." Character introduction. For Dave, it was more than just an invitation. It was an opportunity to show the world the value of kindness and compassion. To him, Sarah was not just another face in the crowd, but a person deserving of dignity and respect, regardless of her current circumstances. Over the next few days, Dave helped Sarah find a suitable outfit for the party, an elegant dress that flattered her figure, accentuating the beauty that still shone through her struggles. They met several times to prepare, and during their conversations, Dave learned more about Sarah's dreams and hopes. She spoke of her desire to get back on her feet, to rebuild her life, and the longing to reconnect with the world that had seemingly forgotten her. "Thank you for believing in me," she said one evening, her voice tinged with emotion. "It's hard to remember what it feels like to be valued." "It's not just me. It's everyone," Dave reassured her. "You just have to show them who you are." As the day of the party approached, Dave felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He knew that inviting Sarah would be met with skepticism from his coworkers, many of whom viewed the world through a different lens. They often whispered about the homeless as if they were invisible, judging without understanding. Yet he felt a sense of responsibility to challenge that mindset, to break the barriers of prejudice and ignorance. On the night of the party, Dave wore a crisp suit, adjusting his tie nervously as he waited for Sarah to arrive. He could only imagine the reaction of his colleagues when they saw him walking in with her. Would they understand his intentions? Would they accept her presence? As the clock ticked closer to the start time, anticipation filled the air. Finally, a knock on the door signaled Sarah's arrival. When he opened it, he was taken aback by how stunning she looked. The dress hugged her frame perfectly, her hair styled elegantly, and her smile radiated a warmth that melted his worries away. "You look amazing," Dave said, genuinely impressed. "Thanks. I feel like a different person," she replied, her eyes gleaming with hope and excitement. As they made their way to the party, Dave felt a sense of pride. He was about to challenge the status quo, to bring a piece of humanity into the often cold, corporate world. Little did he know that this act of kindness would lead to a series of revelations that would shake the very foundation of their lives and their community. But for now, he focused on the moment, walking beside Sarah, determined to show her the beauty of connection, even in a world that sometimes felt divided. As they entered the ballroom, Dave held his breath, ready to face the music, unaware of the life-changing events that were about to unfold. The lights sparkled overhead, and the room buzzed with laughter and chatter, oblivious to the unexpected journey that was about to begin. The atmosphere inside the Thompson Industries ballroom was electric, pulsating with a blend of excitement and formality. Dave and Sarah stepped into the brightly lit room, instantly catching the attention of the crowd. Dave felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He was acutely aware that he had stepped into uncharted territory. "Just breathe," he whispered to himself as they walked through the sea of well-dressed colleagues. "This is going to be fine." He glanced over at Sarah, whose wide eyes were scanning the opulence surrounding her. The lavish decorations, glimmering chandeliers, elegant table settings, and soft music drifting through the air seemed like a stark contrast to the life she had been living just days ago. "Wow," Sarah murmured, a mix of awe and apprehension in her voice. "I've never seen anything like this." "Just wait until the food comes out," Dave said with a grin. "Trust me, it's worth it." As they approached the refreshment table, Dave noticed several of his colleagues mingling nearby, their conversations filled with the usual office gossip and competitive banter. It was then that he spotted Tim, a senior manager known for his sharp tongue and critical eye. Tim's gaze flicked to Sarah, and Dave felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. "Hey Dave, who's your friend?" Tim called out, raising an eyebrow as he leaned against the table, his voice dripping with skepticism. "This is Sarah," Dave introduced her, trying to sound casual. "She's here with me tonight." Sarah offered a polite smile, but Dave could see the uncertainty in her eyes. Tim's smirk deepened, and he leaned in closer. "Interesting choice, Dave. Bringing a friend from the streets to a corporate party. Bold move." A ripple of laughter spread among the nearby colleagues, and Dave felt heat rising to his cheeks. "She's a great person, Tim. You should get to know her," he replied, trying to maintain his composure. "Sure, if you say so," Tim retorted, his voice laced with sarcasm. "But let's hope she doesn't eat all the hors d'oeuvres." "Tim, that's enough," Dave snapped, feeling the surge of protectiveness for Sarah. "Why don't you go get another drink?" The exchange made Sarah's smile falter, and Dave noticed the slight withdrawal in her demeanor. He didn't want her to feel uncomfortable or unwelcome, especially on a night that was supposed to be about joy and celebration. "Ignore him," he said softly, turning to Sarah. "He doesn't know what he's talking about." She managed a weak smile, but the moment had already cast a shadow over the evening. As they moved away from the crowd, Dave tried to steer the conversation to lighter topics. They chatted about their favorite foods, favorite movies, and what they hoped to achieve in the future. For a moment, the outside world faded away, and they were just two people connecting over shared experiences. But the laughter and merriment around them didn't last long. As the night progressed, the party began to shift in tone. Conversations grew louder, and the more inebriated guests started to mingle more freely. Dave spotted a group gathered near the dance floor, animatedly discussing the latest office gossip, and a familiar face caught his eye. Lily, one of the company's top sales executives, and a self-proclaimed socialite. "Look who we have here," Lily said with a condescending smirk as she sauntered over. "Dave, I didn't know you were the charity type. Bringing a +1 from outside the—" She gestured vaguely, the usual crowd. "Lily, this is Sarah," Dave introduced, his tone firm. "Nice to meet you," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the obvious judgment emanating from Lily. Lily studied Sarah for a moment, her gaze flitting up and down as if assessing her worth. "Oh, how charming," she said, her tone dripping with insincerity. "I hope you're enjoying the party, Sarah. It's quite the change of pace, I'd imagine." "Actually, it is," Sarah replied, surprising everyone with her confidence. "It's beautiful in here. I appreciate the invitation." Lily's smile faltered for a split second before she regained her composure. "Well, it's all very exclusive. You might want to stick close to Dave. He's been known to misplace his priorities," she remarked, casting a pointed look in his direction. "Lily, maybe you should," Dave began, but Sarah interrupted, her voice calm and unwavering. "I believe everyone deserves a chance to be part of something special, don't you?" she asked, meeting Lily's gaze directly. The room fell silent for a moment, and Lily's expression shifted from amusement to discomfort. "Well, we'll see how that goes," she muttered before gliding away, leaving a bewildered group behind her. "I didn't mean to make things awkward," Sarah said, a hint of concern in her voice. "You handled that better than I could have," Dave admitted, impressed by her bravery. "You've got a real gift for standing up for yourself." The night wore on, but the tension lingered in the air like a heavy fog. Each interaction was laced with unspoken judgments and assumptions. As the laughter faded, the reality of Sarah's presence began to settle in for many of the guests. The whispers started, the side glances, the uneasy shifting of feet. "Is she really here?" Dave overheard one colleague whisper to another, their voices low but piercing. "What does she even have to do with our company?" In that moment, Dave felt an overwhelming mix of anger and empathy. He had brought Sarah to show a different side of humanity, to challenge the perception that those without homes were unworthy of respect. Yet here they were, reduced to a spectacle, an anomaly in an environment that thrived on exclusivity. As the clock ticked closer to the night's end, the uncertainty weighed heavily on Dave's heart. He knew that Sarah was more than what others saw. She had dreams, ambitions, and a history that deserved to be recognized. But could he convince his colleagues of that? Just as he was lost in thought, the DJ announced a dance break, and couples moved to the floor, laughing and twirling under the colorful lights. "Want to dance?" Dave asked, trying to lighten the mood. "I don't think I could keep up with them," Sarah replied, a hint of shyness returning. "Come on, it'll be fun," he urged, extending his hand. "Let's show them what we've got." After a moment of hesitation, she took his hand, and they stepped onto the dance floor. The music pulsed through their bodies, and for a fleeting moment, the outside world faded. They danced with abandon, laughter echoing above the music, as if they were the only two people in the room. But the bliss was short-lived. As they returned to the sidelines, Dave noticed Mr. Thompson, the CEO, entering the room. The tall, imposing figure commanded attention, and Dave felt a knot form in his stomach again. He had seen the CEO at company meetings, but never in such a personal setting. With Mr. Thompson's arrival, the atmosphere shifted once more. Laughter faded, and hushed conversations resumed as everyone turned their focus to the man who had the power to shape their careers. Dave knew that if Sarah was to be accepted in this space, it would hinge on how Mr. Thompson reacted to her presence. As he watched the CEO greet his senior managers, Dave felt a pang of anxiety. Would Mr. Thompson appreciate the gesture of inclusion, or would he see it as a breach of decorum? The answer loomed over him like a storm cloud, waiting to unleash its fury. Little did he know, the night was about to take a turn that none of them could have foreseen, setting the stage for revelations that would challenge everything they thought they knew about each other and their world. As Mr. Thompson entered the ballroom, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Conversations quieted, laughter faded into whispers, and all eyes turned to the CEO. He was well known for his commanding presence and sharp instincts, traits that had propelled him to the top of the corporate ladder. The air crackled with anticipation, as if everyone was waiting for the man to take his place as the unquestioned authority of the evening. Dave felt the knot in his stomach tighten even more. Beside him, Sarah shifted uncomfortably, her bright smile faltering as she sensed the shift in energy. "What's going to happen now?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Just stay close," Dave reassured her, trying to project confidence even though he felt anything but. "I'll introduce you when the time is right." Mr. Thompson was flanked by a few senior executives, including Tim, who had not missed the chance to whisper snarky comments about Sarah earlier in the evening. As they moved deeper into the room, Dave caught snippets of their conversation, mostly about stock prices and quarterly earnings, typical topics that felt distant from the purpose of the evening. "Where's the catering?" Mr. Thompson asked, scanning the room. "I thought I mentioned needing a gourmet spread." "Right this way, sir," one of the executives replied, leading him toward the buffet. This was Dave's chance. "Let's go meet him," he urged Sarah, hoping to catch Mr. Thompson before he got too involved with the food and his colleagues. They approached the CEO just as he was filling his plate with hors d'oeuvres. "Mr. Thompson," Dave called out, trying to sound enthusiastic despite the anxiety brewing within him. "I'd like you to meet someone." The CEO turned, a polite smile appearing on his face as he recognized Dave. "Ah, Dave. Good to see you. What do you have for me?" "This is Sarah," Dave introduced, gesturing toward her. "I invited her to the party tonight." "Sarah," Mr. Thompson repeated, his gaze shifting to her. "It's nice to meet you." The moment hung in the air, and for a split second, Dave felt hope rising within him. But as Sarah stepped forward, the smile on Mr. Thompson's face faltered. "Thank you for having me," she said, her voice steady despite the scrutiny. "I appreciate the opportunity to join you all tonight." The CEO's eyes flicked to Dave, and in that instant, Dave could see the calculation behind his gaze. "I must say, it's a bit unconventional to bring someone from outside the company to our event," he commented, a slight edge creeping into his tone. "I thought it would be a good chance for us to showcase a little kindness, to remind everyone that people matter, no matter where they come from," Dave replied, his heart racing as he tried to stand his ground. Mr. Thompson regarded him for a moment, then turned back to Sarah. "Well, I hope you're enjoying the food. It's one of our finest catering services. They usually do an excellent job," he said, his voice still cordial but lacking warmth. "Thank you, I'm looking forward to it," Sarah replied, maintaining her composure even as the tension mounted. "Enjoy the party," Mr. Thompson said curtly before turning away to continue his conversation with the executives. The moment felt like a dagger to Dave's chest. He had hoped for a warm welcome, an acknowledgement of Sarah's worth, but instead, he felt the weight of judgment hanging in the air. As Mr. Thompson moved on, Dave noticed a few heads turning, whispering amongst themselves, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Maybe we should go get something to eat," Dave suggested, feeling the need to shift the focus away from the uncomfortable moment. "Yeah, good idea," Sarah replied, her voice slightly shaky. They made their way to the buffet table, where a lavish spread of food awaited them. Dave piled a few items on his plate, glancing over at Sarah, who seemed lost in thought. "Hey," he said gently, "don't let it get to you. You've done great so far." "I appreciate that," she replied, her smile returning, albeit weakly. "I guess I just expected more acceptance. I know it's hard, but you've already proven that you belong here." You stood up to Lily and Mr. Thompson. As they filled their plates, Dave felt a mix of pride and frustration. He admired Sarah's bravery, but knew that the real challenge lay ahead. He glanced at the crowd, noticing the lingering stares and hushed whispers that seemed to follow them. They found a quieter corner to eat, and Dave tried to lighten the mood with small talk. He asked Sarah about her dreams and aspirations, wanting to refocus her attention on the positive. "I want to get back into fashion," she admitted, her eyes lighting up with passion. "I used to design clothes, and I miss it. I just want a chance to rebuild my life." "Then you should definitely pursue that," Dave encouraged, feeling a swell of admiration for her resilience. "You have the talent. It's just a matter of finding the right opportunity." Just as they were finishing their plates, Tim approached again, this time with a smug look on his face. "Enjoying the food, ladies?" he asked, his voice dripping with condescension. "Why don't you just leave us alone, Tim?" Dave shot back, irritation boiling beneath the surface. "Can't help but wonder how a girl like you ends up at an office party like this," Tim sneered, leaning in closer to Sarah. "You sure you belong here?" Before Sarah could respond, Dave stepped in. "She belongs here more than you ever will," he said firmly, standing his ground. "She has more heart than you'll ever understand." The tension was palpable, and several people nearby paused their conversations to watch the confrontation unfold. Tim laughed, a cruel sound that echoed in the space. "What's she going to do? Run a fashion line from the streets?" The color drained from Sarah's face, and Dave could see the hurt in her eyes. He took a deep breath, ready to say something, but before he could, a familiar voice interrupted. "Tim, that's enough," Mr. Thompson said, approaching with an air of authority. "This is supposed to be a night of celebration, not mockery." Tim straightened, surprised by the intervention. "I was just joking around, sir. Jokes shouldn't come at the expense of others. If you can't respect the guests, perhaps you should step outside for a moment," Mr. Thompson replied, his tone firm and uncompromising. With a huff, Tim backed down, muttering under his breath as he walked away. The tension in the air began to dissipate, and Dave looked at Sarah, relieved to see a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Don't mention it. Just remember that kindness can change a person's day, and sometimes a moment like this can change everything," the CEO replied, meeting her gaze with sincerity. As he walked away, Dave felt a shift in the atmosphere. Maybe there was still hope for acceptance. Maybe the night wasn't over yet. The party continued, and as the music shifted to a more upbeat tempo, people began to dance again. Dave turned to Sarah, a spark of mischief in his eyes. "Want to dance again?" Sarah's face brightened. "Absolutely. Let's show them how it's done." They joined the crowd on the dance floor, moving to the rhythm of the music. The energy was infectious, and as they twirled and laughed, the earlier tension faded away. In that moment, they were not defined by judgments or stereotypes, but by their joy and connection. As they danced, Dave noticed a small group gathering at the edge of the dance floor. Among them were some of his colleagues, including Lily, who seemed to watch with a mix of disbelief and intrigue. The whispers had subsided, and it appeared that the earlier incident had shifted the narrative. In a moment of spontaneity, Dave pulled Sarah closer. "Let's give them something to talk about," he said playfully, as they began to dance more exuberantly, moving in sync, laughing freely. And just like that, the moment transformed. The energy in the room shifted as people began to loosen up, and soon others joined them on the dance floor, letting go of the judgments that had momentarily clouded the evening. Yet even in the revelry, a sense of awareness remained. Dave could feel the world around him still simmering with assumptions, but the fire of connection they had ignited was slowly beginning to warm even the coldest hearts. As the night wore on, Dave found himself thinking about the ripple effect of kindness and compassion. He knew that their story was far from over, it was just beginning, and he hoped that the acceptance they sought would grow stronger in the moments to come. Unbeknownst to them, the challenges of the evening were only a precursor to the unforeseen consequences that awaited them as they stepped into a new chapter of their lives, one that would test their resilience and redefine their understanding of community and connection. As the music pulsed through the ballroom, the atmosphere shifted into one of celebration and warmth. The tension that had previously gripped the room began to melt away, replaced by laughter, dancing, and the shared joy of connection. Dave and Sarah moved together effortlessly, lost in the rhythm of the music and the liberating experience of being accepted, at least for the moment. As they twirled and laughed, Sarah's earlier anxiety seemed to fade, and for the first time that evening, she truly seemed to embrace the spirit of the party. Dave watched her, feeling the surge of pride. She was radiant, her laughter infectious, drawing others into her orbit. It was a transformation he had hoped to see, but the nagging feeling that they were still under scrutiny lingered in the back of his mind. After a few songs, they stepped off the dance floor to catch their breath and grab some water. As they settled into a quieter corner, Dave noticed several of his colleagues glancing their way, their expressions shifting from disbelief to curiosity. It was a significant change. They were no longer merely the center of ridicule, but had become a topic of discussion. "Do you think they'll talk about us?" Sarah asked, her tone half-joking, yet tinged with genuine concern. "Let them talk," Dave replied, feeling emboldened. "It's our night. We deserve to enjoy it without worrying about what they think." Just then, Lily approached, her expression a mixture of feigned friendliness and genuine interest. "Sarah, I must admit, you really held your own tonight," she said, her voice sweet but edged with sarcasm. "I didn't expect you to keep up with Dave on the dance floor." "Thanks, I guess," Sarah replied, her smile tight. "Look, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for earlier. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable," Lily continued, her tone shifting slightly. "I was just surprised by the whole situation." "Appreciate it," Dave said, cutting in before Sarah could respond. He didn't want her to feel cornered or obligated to accept an apology that felt insincere. Lily's eyes narrowed for a moment, but then her smile returned. "It's a wild world out there. You never know who people really are. Sometimes, the most unexpected connections can lead to the best stories." "Like the story of you and your high school prom date," Dave shot back, his frustration bubbling to the surface. He had heard the tale more times than he could count, and Lily's insistence on using that story to belittle others grated on him. "Oh, come on. Just trying to lighten the mood." Lily laughed lightly, though it felt forced. She glanced at Sarah, gauging her reaction. "I'm just saying, you never know when a chance encounter will change your life. Look at Dave here. He seems to have quite a knack for surprising us." As she walked away, Dave sensed the tension return, but this time it was different. Sarah leaned in closer to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Did she mean that?" "Who knows with Lily?" Dave replied, shaking his head. "But we can't let her get under our skin. Tonight is about us." The conversation shifted to lighter topics, and for a while, they were able to enjoy each other's company without the weight of judgment hanging overhead. However, as the night progressed, Dave couldn't shake the feeling that there was an undercurrent of gossip swirling around them. He caught snippets of conversations from nearby groups, and while most seemed to have shifted to more positive remarks, he could sense the whispers of doubt still lurking. "Did you see how she danced? She's got some moves," one of his colleagues remarked, eliciting laughter from the others. "Yeah, and with Dave of all people," another chimed in, their tone dismissive. Dave felt his blood boil at the comments, but he took a deep breath, reminding himself that their evening was not defined by the opinions of others. He wanted to focus on Sarah and the progress they were making. As the clock edged closer to midnight, Mr. Thompson took the microphone, signaling for attention. "Thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been a fantastic evening, and I want to extend a special thank you to our guests, including those who stepped outside their comfort zones to join us." The room quieted, and Dave's heart raced as he felt the gaze of the entire crowd shift toward them. Mr. Thompson's words held weight, and for the first time that evening, Dave felt a glimmer of hope that perhaps acceptance was within reach. "I've seen a lot of talent and potential in our company, and tonight reminded me that we should always be open to unexpected connections. They can lead us to places we never thought possible." Mr. Thompson continued, a knowing smile crossing his lips as he looked directly at Dave and Sarah. With that, a round of applause erupted, and Dave felt Sarah's hand squeeze his tightly. The camaraderie in the room began to shift, an acknowledgement of the night's events leading to a deeper understanding of one another. "See, you're a part of this now," Dave whispered, leaning closer to Sarah, his heart swelling with pride. She beamed at him, her smile radiant. "I can't believe this is happening. I feel like I stepped into a different world." As the applause faded, Mr. Thompson added, "Let's make a toast to kindness, connection, and new beginnings." Everyone raised their glasses, and as they did, Dave noticed a few hesitant faces among the crowd. But in that moment, it didn't matter. He and Sarah had made a mark, and they were part of something bigger. "Here's to us," Sarah exclaimed, lifting her glass with enthusiasm. "Here's to unexpected friendships," Dave replied, clinking his glass against hers. But just as they began to savor their moment of triumph, the doors swung open, and a loud commotion filled the room. A group of police officers entered, uniforms crisp and commanding. The atmosphere shifted once again, confusion rippling through the crowd. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, concern etched on his face. "Is there a problem, officers?" One of the officers, a tall woman with an authoritative presence, scanned the room before addressing the crowd. "We received a report about a potential incident involving a woman who may need assistance." Dave's heart raced. Sarah's eyes widened as she exchanged glances with him. "What do you mean?" Dave asked, stepping forward. "Is it about Sarah?" "No, sir. We're following up on a lead concerning someone matching the description of an individual seen in this area earlier. We just need to ask a few questions," the officer replied, her gaze steady and unyielding. The crowd murmured in confusion as people began to glance at one another, uncertain of what was happening. Dave felt a wave of anxiety wash over him, a stark reminder that despite the celebratory atmosphere, the world outside the ballroom could be unpredictable and harsh. "Can we assist you in any way?" Mr. Thompson asked, his voice steady but edged with concern. "We're looking for anyone who might have seen something unusual tonight. There's no need for alarm. We're simply gathering information," the officer assured, but Dave sensed a deeper tension in her tone. As the officers moved through the room, asking questions and observing the guests, Sarah squeezed Dave's hand tightly. "What do you think is going on?" she whispered, her voice filled with apprehension. "I don't know, but I'm not letting them take away what we've built tonight," Dave replied firmly. "Let's stay together and keep our heads up." But as they moved to the side, observing the officers interacting with the guests, Dave couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The night that had started as a celebration was now fraught with uncertainty, and they were caught in the middle of something far beyond their control. Sarah's expression shifted, and Dave could see her anxiety return. "What if this has nothing to do with us, but they still take notice?" she asked, her voice wavering. "They won't," Dave assured her, though doubt crept into his mind. "They're just doing their job. Let's not let fear dictate how we feel tonight." Just then, an officer approached their corner, a woman with a kind face. "Excuse me, ma'am. We're just checking in with everyone tonight. Do you happen to know anyone who might have needed assistance earlier?" Dave stood tall, stepping forward protectively. "She's been with me all night. We were just dancing." The officer smiled gently. I'm glad to hear that. But we have to ask everyone just to be sure. It's nothing personal. We're just following a lead. Of course, Sarah said, her voice steadying as she met the officer's gaze. I haven't seen anything out of the ordinary. The officer nodded, noting their responses. Thank you. If you do see anything suspicious, please don't hesitate to contact us. As the officer moved on, Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. That was nerve-wracking, she admitted, her hands shaking slightly. Just stay close to me, Dave said, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. We're not letting this night end on a sour note. But as they returned to the dance floor, the feeling of celebration was undercut by the uncertainty of the evening. While the music played on, the reality of their situation loomed. As the night continued, the atmosphere inside the ballroom felt increasingly charged. Guests mingled, danced, and laughed, but there was an undercurrent of tension that made the air feel heavy. Dave and Sarah were both aware of it, their earlier euphoria tempered by the unexpected arrival of the police. They clung to each other, not only for support, but as a statement of their connection amid the chaos surrounding them. Do you think it's really over? Sarah asked quietly as they took a moment to catch their breath near the edge of the dance floor. The music pulsed on, and the laughter of others faded into the background as they focused on each other. I don't know, Dave replied, his brow furrowed in thought. But whatever is happening outside, we can't let it ruin our night. We've already faced so much just to be here together. Sarah smiled at him, a flicker of warmth igniting in her eyes. You're right. It feels so unfair. I was finally starting to feel like I belonged. Exactly, Dave said, his voice firm. This is our moment. We've come too far to let a little chaos derail us. We need to enjoy what we've built tonight. As they stepped back onto the dance floor, Sarah noticed that many of their colleagues were still watching them. There was a mix of intrigue and disbelief on their faces, but slowly that expression began to shift. Laughter bubbled up around them, and Sarah could see other employees looking at her with a newfound respect. Look at them, Dave said, tilting his head toward a group of employees nearby. They're starting to talk. It's a good sign. With renewed energy, Sarah took Dave's hand and pulled him back into the rhythm of the music. They danced with abandon, allowing the beat to wash over them and carry away their worries. The more they moved, the more she felt herself shedding the layers of anxiety and uncertainty that had clung to her since their arrival. As the evening wore on, the police presence faded, and the crowd began to shift back into celebration mode. Mr. Thompson made his way to the center of the room, raising his glass for another toast. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Let's remember that true connections can happen in the most unexpected ways. Cheers erupted, and Dave turned to Sarah, their eyes locking with a shared understanding. This was their moment to shine, to prove that they could break the mold of what people expected from them. Let's show them how it's done, Dave whispered, and with a grin, they dove back into the dance floor. Hours passed, and the party began to wind down, but the feeling of camaraderie remained strong. As guests filtered out, the mood had shifted dramatically. Laughter and cheers rang through the air as people recounted the night's unexpected turns. Can you believe what happened? One colleague exclaimed, eyes wide. I never would have guessed she was the CEO's wife. Right? It's a wild story. Another chimed in, shaking their head in disbelief. Dave overheard snippets of conversation that filled him with pride. The initial shock of Sarah's presence had given way to admiration, and he felt a swell of affection for her resilience and the courage she had shown. When the clock struck midnight, the remaining guests began to gather their belongings, the energy slowly dissipating but leaving behind a sense of hope. As they stood together, watching the crowd filter out, Sarah turned to Dave, her eyes shining. This was amazing. I can't believe we actually did it. See, you have a place here, Dave replied, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. You're a part of this community now. Do you really think so? Sarah asked, her voice soft, almost incredulous. Absolutely, he affirmed. They may have seen you differently at first, but you've shown them who you are tonight. You're so much more than they could have imagined. Sarah's smile widened, and in that moment, Dave felt the weight of the night lift. They had faced judgment, uncertainty, and even the unexpected presence of law enforcement, but together they had triumphed. As they exited the venue, a gentle breeze brushed against them, a reminder of the world outside the ballroom. The streets were calm, the chaos of the night fading into a distant memory. But just as they began to walk away, a figure stepped out from the shadows, a man in a tattered jacket with an unkempt beard and weary eyes. "Excuse me, sir," the man called out, his voice rough yet sincere. "I couldn't help but notice how you treated that woman tonight. It was inspiring." Dave and Sarah exchanged glances, surprise etched on their faces. "Thanks," Dave replied cautiously, unsure of what to expect next. "People forget that everyone has a story," the man continued, his gaze piercing yet compassionate. "You showed kindness in a place where it was sorely lacking. I just wanted to say thank you." Touched by the man's words, Sarah stepped forward. "We just treated her like anyone else. She deserved that chance." "That's right," the man nodded, his expression softening. "Sometimes it just takes one person to change everything." Dave felt a swell of gratitude for the man's acknowledgement. "We all have our battles," he said, "but it's how we choose to face them that defines us." With a smile, the man nodded. "Exactly. Just remember, your actions ripple out further than you can see." As he turned to walk away, Dave called after him, "Wait. Do you need anything?" The man paused and looked back, a faint smile on his lips. "Just keep being who you are. That's enough." With that, he vanished into the night, leaving Dave and Sarah standing together in the dim light of the street lamp. "That was unexpected," Sarah said softly, her eyes wide. "It's like he knew exactly what we were going through." "People are more connected than we realize," Dave replied, his heart full. And tonight proved that. As they walked hand in hand down the quiet street, Sarah felt a sense of purpose enveloping her. The challenges she had faced, the judgment, and the uncertainty, it had all led her to this moment. She no longer felt like an outsider. She was part of something bigger, something that had the potential to transform lives. "Do you think this will change things for us?" she asked, glancing up at Dave, her voice tinged with hope. "Absolutely," he replied confidently. "You've shown everyone that you belong here, and that's going to make a difference. It won't happen overnight, but we can be the change." The journey home was filled with soft laughter and dreams of what was to come. They discussed plans for the future, the friendships they had forged, and how they would continue to advocate for each other and those in their community. In that moment, everything felt possible. As they reached Sarah's doorstep, Dave turned to her, cupping her face in his hands. "You're incredible, you know that. You've shown so much strength tonight. I couldn't have done it without you," Sarah replied, her voice soft and sincere. As they exchanged a gentle kiss, the world around them faded into the background. They had faced the night together, and despite the uncertainty that lay ahead, they knew they could navigate whatever came their way. As Sarah stepped inside, she turned back to look at Dave, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me." "Always," he said, watching her disappear into the warmth of her home. That night, they each lay awake, reflecting on the extraordinary circumstances that had unfolded. They had found connection in the most unexpected places, and had proven to themselves and each other that love, kindness, and understanding could bridge any divide. As the city settled into the quiet of the night, both Dave and Sarah felt a sense of peace wash over them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but together they were ready to face whatever came next. The world was vast, filled with stories waiting to be told, and they were now part of that tapestry, one that was woven with compassion, understanding, and hope for a brighter future. In the weeks following the office party, The lives of both Dave and Sarah began to change in ways they had never anticipated. The ripple effect of that night, sparked by an unexpected encounter, brought them deeper into their community and ignited a newfound sense of purpose. New beginnings. Sarah returned to work with a renewed sense of confidence. The buzz from the party had spread through the office, and people who once overlooked her began to recognize her as an integral part of the team. Her colleagues approached her with a mix of curiosity and respect, often recounting the night's events and expressing their admiration for her courage. "Sarah, can you come over for a second?" called Claire, a fellow employee who usually kept to herself. "I wanted to ask you about the fundraiser next month. I heard you have some great ideas." The warmth in Claire's voice surprised Sarah. "Sure, I'd love to help," she replied, her heart racing with excitement. As they sat down to brainstorm, Sarah realized how important her contributions were becoming. She suggested organizing a community event that highlighted local artists and included a charity auction to benefit the homeless shelters in the area. Claire's eyes lit up with enthusiasm as they mapped out the details, and for the first time, Sarah felt like she was truly part of the team. An unlikely advocate. Meanwhile, Dave, who had always been passionate about social justice, began to take on a more active role in advocating for those in need. He reached out to community organizations, volunteering his time and skills to help those less fortunate. It wasn't long before he became involved in a local nonprofit that focused on providing support and resources for homeless individuals. One day, during a volunteer meeting, Dave learned that the organization was planning a community awareness event aimed at changing perceptions about homelessness. Inspired, he proposed a collaboration with Sarah's office, suggesting they could leverage the company's resources and connections to create a larger impact. "Imagine if we could bring the community together," Dave said, his voice filled with passion. "We can host a day of service where people from the office and the nonprofit can work side by side to make a difference. It's about breaking down barriers and showing that we're all in this together." The room erupted with nods of agreement and excitement. Dave felt a rush of energy coursing through him. This was his chance to help create real change. The community event. With both Sarah and Dave at the helm, the planning for the community event took shape. They worked tirelessly, reaching out to local businesses for sponsorship, rallying volunteers, and promoting the event through social media. Their enthusiasm was infectious, and soon, the entire office was involved, transforming their workplace culture into one of compassion and community engagement. As the event date approached, Sarah found herself increasingly anxious. What if no one shows up? She fretted to Dave as they reviewed the final details late one night. "Even if just a few people come, we can still make a difference," Dave reassured her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's about the impact we have, not the numbers." On the day of the event, the sun shone brightly, and a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, adding to the day's atmosphere. As the volunteers began to arrive, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and nerves. "Look at all these people," she exclaimed as she noticed the crowd forming in front of the community center. The event included art displays from local artists, food from nearby restaurants, and informational booths run by various nonprofit organizations. But the highlight was the Stories from the Streets segment, where individuals who had experienced homelessness shared their personal stories with the crowd. As Sarah and Dave took the stage to welcome everyone, she felt her heart racing. "Thank you all for being here today. This event is about more than just raising awareness. It's about creating a community where we uplift each other, regardless of our circumstances." The applause that followed filled her with warmth, and as the day progressed, she watched in awe as people engaged in meaningful conversations, shared their experiences, and connected with one another in ways she had only dreamed of. A moment of connection. During one of the storytelling sessions, a woman named Lisa, who had once been homeless, shared her journey. "I lost everything. A job, a home, and even my family. But I discovered strength I never knew I had," she said, her voice strong yet vulnerable. It was the kindness of strangers that helped me find my way back. Each small act made a big difference. As Lisa spoke, Sarah's eyes glistened with tears. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the stories being shared, and the atmosphere of empathy enveloped the crowd like a warm embrace. After the event, many attendees approached Lisa to offer their support and encouragement. Sarah found herself standing beside her, the two women exchanging smiles. "You were incredible," Sarah said, wiping away a tear. "Thank you," Lisa replied, her eyes sparkling with appreciation. "It's people like you and Dave who make a difference. Your kindness goes a long way." Unexpected surprises. As the day came to a close, the impact of their efforts began to ripple through the community. Donations poured in, and new partnerships were formed, all thanks to the connections made during the event. But the most surprising outcome was still to come. A week later, Dave received an unexpected call from the nonprofit's board of directors. "Dave, we've been so impressed with your dedication and the success of the event. We'd like to invite you to join our board. We believe you can bring valuable insights and leadership to our mission." Dave was taken aback, feeling a mixture of pride and disbelief. "I'm honored. Thank you so much for considering me." As he hung up the phone, he felt a surge of gratitude for the journey that had led him to this moment. It was a culmination of hard work, passion, and the support of those around him. An unbreakable bond. Meanwhile, Sarah was thriving in her new role at work, where her ideas were not just welcomed but celebrated. Her boss often sought her input on projects, and she had become an advocate for initiatives that promoted inclusivity and support for the community. One afternoon, while working on a new proposal, Sarah received an email from Mr. Thompson. He wanted to recognize her contributions in the upcoming company meeting. "You've shown remarkable leadership, Sarah. Your vision for community engagement is inspiring, and I'd like you to present our initiatives to the entire company next week." Her heart raced at the opportunity. It was a chance to amplify her voice and inspire others to join the cause. As she prepared her presentation, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come since that night at the office party. The uncertainty, the judgment, it all felt like a distant memory now. The bond between her and Dave had grown stronger, grounded in shared experiences and mutual support. The future ahead. On the day of her presentation, Sarah stood confidently before her colleagues, her heart swelling with pride as she spoke about the nonprofit's work and the impact they could make together. She shared stories of individuals who had faced adversity, highlighting the importance of empathy and understanding in building a stronger community. When she finished, the room erupted in applause, and she couldn't help but smile. In that moment, she knew she had found her place, not only within the company but in a broader sense of purpose that transcended her personal journey. Afterward, Dave found her, beaming with pride. "You were amazing. I knew you could do it." "Thanks. I couldn't have done it without you," she replied, her eyes shining. As they walked out of the office together, Sarah felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond career success. She and Dave had transformed their lives, and the lives of those around them through simple acts of kindness and a willingness to stand up for what was right. The future stretched before them, filled with possibilities. Together, they dreamed of expanding their efforts, creating programs that supported individuals in need, and fostering a culture of empathy and understanding in their community. A lasting legacy. Months later, as they celebrated the anniversary of the community event, Sarah and Dave stood hand in hand, looking out at the crowd that had gathered. The atmosphere buzzed with energy and hope, a testament to the change they had sparked. As Sarah addressed the crowd, she reflected on their journey. "This all started with one small act of kindness. We never know how our actions can ripple out into the world. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us." The applause that followed was deafening, a celebration of the community they had built together. As they looked out at the sea of familiar faces, Sarah and Dave realized that their story was only beginning. The impact they had made would continue to grow, fueled by the connections they had forged and the love they had shared. And in that moment, they knew they were not just writing their own narrative. They were weaving together a tapestry of hope, resilience, and transformation that would inspire others for generations to come.